Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 31 of The Loud House, Making the Grade. We begin this segment with Lincoln entering Agnes Johnson's class for another day of school, and he's enthusiastically greeted by his inner circle, Clyde and the redheaded trio. When class formally begins, Agnes reveals that they have a new student, the second youngest of the Loud siblings, Lisa, and she decides to have Lisa sit next to her brother and requests Clyde to find a new seat. And Clyde, even though he says he's okay, his tone makes it clear he's not okay with this, and he tries to call Dr. Lopez about it too. And Lincoln then questions Lisa why she's in his class now. Lisa reveals that she found kindergarten to be too boring for her. We do see some flashbacks which show Lisa not really... Yeah, Lisa's point about finding kindergarten boring holds water. And although it's not said out loud in the segment, the credits reveal that the kindergarten teacher's name is Miss Srinivas. And Lisa explains she actually wanted to jump ahead to med school, but the elementary school's principal could only give her up to 5th grade, so she decided to take what she could get. Now, while Agnes is preparing the class for today's subject, she finds out that Lisa already read through the entire history book, and this gives Agnes the idea that since a former kindergarten student could read the entire history book and so quickly, then she expects the rest of the class to read the whole book by tomorrow, ignoring the fact that Lisa is a prodigy. And Lisa even adds that they should have a pop quiz too, and Agnes agrees, which annoys the rest of the class. During lunchtime, Lincoln finds out that the redheaded trio refused to allow him to sit with them because they're angry at Lisa for showing them up in class, and they're taking it out on Lincoln because he's Lisa's brothers. And they banish him to the sticky table, which, as the name implies, it's very sticky and not somewhere you'd want to sit at for lunchtime. After the school day is over and everyone returns home, Lincoln goes to talk to Lisa, and he finds out Lisa's apparently planning to get rid of recess as well, which leads to Lincoln's point about what he wanted to talk about with Lisa. He's saying that Lisa showing up everyone in class is irritating them, and he requests if Lisa could dial it back a bit, not try to make the rest of the class look bad, and to act, a little more average is how he puts it. Lisa eventually agrees to this because she decides to view it as a sociological experiment. And that's what we see the next day. Lisa has a new hairstyle and she's not wearing her glasses anymore. We see a flashback which reveals she gave herself laser eye surgery the night before. Must have been a very fast healing process. And she also gave herself a collar which squirts water whenever she says her usual intellectual words or her intellectual speech pattern. So during the class, she instead makes some one-liners or jokes here or there, and it makes her very popular with the rest of the class. Lincoln's gets to sit with the redheaded trio again at lunch, and Lisa gets to join them as well, and Lisa even starts a food fight, which gets them called to the principal's office, and we, the audience, don't see the principal in this segment. We just see Lisa walking out of his office. The rest of them are sitting just outside of it, and she's assuring him that it won't happen again, but secretly saying, "Or will it?" to Lincoln and his friends. We do find out, though, that the principal's last name is Huggins, so Principal Huggins is we have a name to go with the character, even if we don't have a face for him. Not yet, anyway. And for a while, it looks like, well, Lincoln doesn't have to worry about his classmates taking their frustrations out on him. But, well, the segment's not over yet, and a new problem arises. After school, when everyone's back home, Lincoln sees that Lisa is throwing out her science equipment because she thanks Lincoln for opening her eyes to how much more fun it is to be cool or average rather than being smart. But Lincoln clarifies that wasn't what he meant and thinks that, and he even says that Lisa shouldn't go too far and considers giving up her intelligence altogether as too far. But Lincoln's warning and concerns fall on deaf ears. And Lisa, well, her new behavior does start to affect other characters. We see Luna enter the room wanting Lisa's help with something, but Lisa refuses to help because she's no longer in that game, as she puts it, and she thanks Lincoln for this, which leads to Luna giving Lincoln the stink eye. And we get a few scenes where this happens with the rest of the Loud family, where at dinner time, Lynn Sr. says that he usually has Lisa help him with measurements for ingredients for the food they eat, but Lisa no longer helps him. She thanks Lincoln for this, and the other family members give him the stink eye. Lori, Lola, Lisa, and Lincoln are all riding Vanzilla. They're J-Rock, the radio guy from Back in Undie Pressure, is holding a contest, and, well, the answer is something that Lisa could have easily answered about rocks, but she names genres of rock music or types of rock music instead, and thanks Lincoln again, which leads to Lincoln getting kicked out of Vanzilla. Or Rita gets a call from Albert, her dad, the rest of the kids' pop, about how he's been waiting at the train station for an hour, or about an hour, and Rita says Lisa usually helps her with coordinating the train schedules. And it doesn't just extend to it's not just limited to the Loud family. When Lincoln and Lisa are back at school the next day, Miss Srinivas wants Lisa's help because it turns out the kindergarten class now have strep throat, and in the flashback from earlier, Lisa was working on an antidote for strep throat, and Miss Srinivas is hoping that Lisa can finish up the antidote. But once again, Lisa thanks Lincoln for her no longer being concerned about that. Miss Srinivas actually chews Lincoln out for this. She pretty much blames Lincoln for the kids having strep throat and tries to guilt trip him about the kids having strep throat, even though, as Lincoln had mentioned earlier, that wasn't his intention to make Lisa give up her intelligence. But after Miss Srinivas slams the door after chewing out Lincoln, Lincoln goes to talk to Lisa and says that she should go back to being her usual intelligent self, and saying how a lot of people need the help of the smart Lisa. Lisa doesn't want to quite give up her average demeanor because of how cool she is, but she eventually agrees, although she says that they have to get the whole package. And she considers Lincoln to be a good man, so she does end up, going back to her smart ways, and she's able to cure the kindergarten kids of their strep throat. But at the end of the segment, or near the end of it, it turns out that the redheaded trio aren't going to banish Lincoln to the sticky table, even though Lisa's back to her smart self. It turns out that Liam had a sister who was in kindergarten, so Lisa ended up helping her out. And they also mentioned that it could have spread beyond the kindergarten class too, and they do apologize to Lincoln for how they acted earlier. Lisa decides, though, that she's not going to stay in the fifth grade class. She decides to just go back to kindergarten. And she says that it doesn't really matter whether it's kindergarten or fifth grade. It's still boring to her, but kindergarten does have some perks to it. And the segment ends with Lisa revealing that perk is nap time. She apparently likes nap time now. So the segment ends with her preparing for a nap. Now, this segment, like Snowboard, it featured Lisa as the spotlight character, and if you saw my video where I discussed my thoughts about Snowboard, you may recall that was not one of my favorite segments. Unfortunately, I have to say that's the case here as well. I didn't particularly like making the grade. And, well, the main reason for that is because, well, in the past, I've mentioned that I was never really much of a fan of the segments whenever Lincoln gets hit with disproportionate retribution or he sort of gets all the blame for a conflict. This one was slightly different in the case that, in this case, it was Lincoln getting hit with misplaced retribution. Or, to put it another way, it felt like Lincoln was the scapegoat for the conflict of the segment, even though really he wasn't really, he was blamed for something that really wasn't his intention. And, well, to clarify, let's go over it again now. The segment and several of the characters in the segment, and even some viewers, have tried to make it seem like, oh, Lincoln reaped what he sowed. It's karma, that what he got was karma for trying to change Lisa for who she was. But no, I didn't get that impression. To me, Lincoln wasn't trying to change Lisa for who she was. I mean, Lincoln even outright said within the segment that he didn't mean for Lisa to give up her intelligence altogether. He really wasn't trying to change her, and he did say Lisa giving up her intelligence was going too far. What Lincoln's intention really was he just wanted Lisa to back off on showing up his classmates. And to be fair, that really wasn't an unreasonable request on his part, because as it was shown, the other classmates were sort of taking out their frustrations with Lisa out on Lincoln just because Lincoln is her brother. And to be fair, their frustrations, while it was misplaced towards Lincoln, it was understandable. Because, well, let's look at this again. Agnes Johnson wants the rest of the fifth graders to read the entire history book by the next day because she says, oh, if a former kindergarten student can do it, no problem, then the rest of you can. Which is downright ridiculous because Lisa is not an ordinary kindergartner. She is a prodigy. She is much smarter than the average kindergartner. So her trying to make every other fifth grader who's at least shown to be the average fifth grade education level and try to put them to the standards of a prodigy like Lisa, who's more the exception than the rule, is just plain holding the idiot ball, to put it bluntly. And likewise, Lincoln's point about Lisa showing up the class was valid. Lisa kind of was a little apathetic to how her actions were affecting the other class, or because Lisa enforcing a pop quiz too on all the material in the book. And there was that line where Lisa wanted to get rid of recess. Lisa wanted to get rid of recess. Yeah, that was a bad call too. Recess is a good thing. Recess is what helps kids to recharge their batteries and to play, and because everyone needs a break. You can't just sit in class all day doing classwork. I mean, that's not too healthy either. I mean, sure, we're not saying no work at all, but it's just all work and no play. There's a reason why that saying exists. So again, I think Lincoln wanting Lisa to ease off on kind of making the rest of the class look bad or trying to impose her standards onto the rest of the class was perfectly reasonable. And the other problem, or the part that adds to the whole misplaced retribution, is the fact that Lisa keeps thanking Lincoln for the reason why she gave up her intelligence, but like we said, Lincoln didn't mean for that. He just. And the thing is, that's what the other characters do. They take Lisa's word for it and they just blame Lincoln for how Lisa's acting, even though it was made clear that Lincoln didn't force Lisa to change who she was. Lisa chose by her own free will to no longer be intelligent and or to not act intelligent anymore. And it doesn't help that at least for some of the problems people had without Lisa was also kind of an idiot ball moment. Like, Lynn Sr. Has Lisa help him with measurements for food ingredients. Just look up the recipes online. I mean, the internet's much more user-friendly now than it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Rita says Lisa helps her with train schedules. She can look them up herself on the internet again, or she could call Albert, her dad, on the phone and say, do you have a ballpark guess of when you're going to arrive at the train station, so she can make sure she's there. Even if it's a little early, at least it wouldn't be a very long wait. And now, to be fair, like, this wasn't the worst example of Lincoln getting put through the ringer. Like, there's much worse examples out there because, for the most part, like, the family members were really just giving Lincoln the stink eye. I mean, yeah, it's not nice, it's not tactful, it's misplaced, but, again, it's pretty tame compared to what they've done in some other segments or the actions of other characters in other segments. But there were two moments that I thought were kind of really low blows or really uncalled for, and that was Lori and Lola kicking Lincoln out of Vanzilla, I think was uncalled for, and Miss Srinivas blaming Lincoln for the kindergarten kids having strep throat was also a low blow too. I have to admit that Miss Srinivas made her first appearance here, and yeah, she kind of came off as needlessly harsh to me, especially for a kindergarten teacher. Though maybe that's attributed to the fact that she has to put up with Lisa, who's admittedly really difficult to be around sometimes. And maybe her lashing out at Lincoln, maybe that was just anger born of worry for the sake of the kindergarten students. And okay, I can understand being concerned about their well-being, but trying to blame Lincoln for them having strep throat, at least that's how it came off to me. The way she worded it, it made it feel like she was just blaming Lincoln for the kindergartners getting strep throat when that was out of his hand. And as we've established already, Lincoln wasn't at fault for Lisa giving up her intelligence. That was Lisa's own choice, her own free will. She chose that. All Lincoln wanted was for her to not show up to class so he wouldn't get treated. So he wouldn't really get treated, because it seemed Lincoln couldn't win in this scenario. Like, this was kind of another example of him being the chew toy, because beforehand, Lincoln gets blamed for how Lisa is showing up the class with her intelligence, and then when Lisa decides to act cool, he gets blamed by everyone else for Lisa giving up her intelligence. It kind of felt like it didn't seem to occur to the other characters that Lincoln could have. It didn't seem like the other characters thought that they couldn't blame Lisa, even though it was Lisa's own choices. It was like they didn't hold Lisa accountable for her own actions. It felt like they just blamed Lincoln because Lincoln's the only character they can get away with blaming for whatever reason was their line of thinking. So, yeah, that didn't sit well with me. I really thought that, yeah, it was it was not a fun experience, not a fun watch, I have to admit. As far as other details in the segment go, well, this was the second time we got a mention of the elementary school's principal. We still haven't seen him yet, but we now know he's Principal Huggins because he was mentioned in Heavy Metal, but we didn't get anything else out of it other than just them calling him the principal. And this segment, they actually did hide Lynn Sr. and Rita's faces. I wasn't too sure if Brawl in the Family was the last time they did that or not, but this is actually, they did do it one more time after Sweet and Sour. But I think this is the last time the parents' faces are hidden. I think that they're visible for the remainder of the season. And well, Lisa does have another spotlight segment actually coming up in later on in season 2, and thankfully I feel that segment actually is I feel that's a much better showing for Lisa, so that's good. So but for now, yeah, I have to say, like Snowboard, this segment really didn't do Lisa much favors, I feel. And I do feel, again, this was kind of a case where I feel like this was a case where Lincoln was made the scapegoat because no one stopped to consider that maybe they should hold Lisa accountable for making her own choices. And oh, and the whole be yourself moral. I mean, like I said, it depends on the execution. Being yourself is a good moral and all, but if it's badly executed, it kind of just comes off as a flimsy excuse to justify misbehavior. And that's sort of the impression I got at the end when Lisa was saying, "Oh, okay, I'll go back to being smart, but you have to get the whole package, including her being an arrogant, condescending jerk." And it's supposed to come off as, oh, Lisa's just going to be true to herself, tough noodles to anyone who disagrees. But it struck me too much like certain people I know in real life who use the be yourself excuse to justify being arrogant and condescending to others. And when they get called out for their bad behavior, they just try to flip it on them by saying, oh, I'm just being myself. It's your fault for not accepting me for who I am. So yeah, this was a badly executed example of the be yourself moral, if you were to ask me. So, yeah, I was not a fan of this segment, though I am glad that the next Lisa prevalent segment will be much more enjoyable. And as to be expected, we'll cover the B segment next. Take care, and until next time.